Gabrielle Union was born on October 29th, 1972 in Omaha, Nebraska. Her mom managed a phone company and her father was a military sergeant and business executive. Gabby says her mom always told her how important it was to speak out and to express herself.
I've never been one to hold my tongue. And it was, I think it was probably mortifying and a bit embarrassing for them in the stands. I think there was also a bit of pride that their child is not going to be one to be silenced. But that journey has been ongoing. And sometimes we forget our mother's advice.
Now, as far as her childhood, she never said anything negative about her mother and father that I could find. However, she's quoted saying, "I was tossing this conversation around with some of my friends when I recognized that my own father wouldn't have dated me. My dad only likes light-skinned women, and he married a light-skinned woman thinking he would have light-skinned children." At the age of 8, her family decided to move to California, where she grew up and attended high school. When she moved to California, her life changed. She became a minority, she lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, and she faced a lot of racism.
I mean, when you are the chip in the cookie, you're either under a microscope or you're invisible. Yeah. And there's nothing about your blackness that is celebrated. And it can create a sense of I'm not good enough, I'm a loser, I don't fit in. And all you want to do is fit in when you're
exactly, especially a teenager,
young age, and when you're always sort of made to feel other. There's nothing about who you are that is ever kind of seen as quite good enough or the standard.
And those are those feelings that you carried into your 20s and 30s?
Oh yeah, from a very young age of not feeling good enough, feeling like a loser. These are the lies we tell ourselves. Yeah. And they don't start in our 20s and 30s. They start, when we're kids and we don't ever address it. And we internalize it, and those become the lies that we tell ourselves that stop us from achieving our dreams and create, all sorts of other issues later in life, like extreme anxiety and this fear of they're gonna figure it out, that I'm not good enough, I'm a loser, I'm a joke.
And how did you get over it, or are you over it?
It's a lifetime. Yeah. It's a journey that lasts a lifetime, that you always have to remind yourself you're good enough.
When Gabby was in the 3rd grade, it was the first time someone called her the N-word.
Latino boy, and he had been othered. So where I grew up in this town called Pleasanton in the Bay Area, they had turned these army barracks into Section 8 housing, and they called the area Commodorsky. And they would bus the Commodorsky kids into Pleasanton across the freeway. And they were largely Latino and a couple of black kids and a couple white kids. But because they came on the bus, nobody rode the bus at our elementary school. It was an elementary school that was in the middle of a planned subdivision. So most kids walked where your parents dropped you off, but there was no school buses except the Commodorsky kids. So they were easily identified. And they were called as a collective. The fact that I can't remember any names, they were just the Commodorsky kids, which was largely then used in exchange for the Latino kids. They had been othered. They had been deemed less than, unworthy of being at our perfectly planned elementary school, and they were to be shunned. So when you realize that you've been othered and you don't want to be othered, you want to assimilate, he was just doing his best to be seen. It was just at my expense. But we were in the same boat. We just didn't know it. So when he was like, Nikki, it was the white kids that joined in. And so he was seen. He got to be accepted in tormenting me, in creating terror in me. He was accepted.
Union also discussed during this time in her life, she wanted to be seen, she wanted to be known. She wanted the acceptance, so she didn't hang around black kids. She started to allow her white friends to tell racist jokes around her in order for her to stay in the circle.
A black girl transferred into our school named, Tarsha, yes. I changed her name. There were a lot of jokes made at her expense, and I just tried to avoid her because I felt like if they saw us together, they would identify me as black. I avoided her like the plague. Somehow my mother found out and was like, I heard you're being mean to the black girl, you better be her friend. And I was like, I'm not gonna do it. Then I'll be black. So my compromise was just ignoring her. They would tell racist jokes, homophobic jokes, and nobody said anything. As I got older, and I left Pleasanton, and I started becoming more prideful, and I started being seen, really seen as a whole person by people that look like me, I would always go back to their silence and the do buckwheat.
Gabrielle Union happens to be an all-star point guard and a year-round athlete participating in soccer, basketball, and track. She graduated from Foothill High School, class of 1991. After high school, Gabrielle Union attended college at the University of Nebraska, where she played on the soccer team. Eventually, she transferred to another college, and she then ended up at UCLA on her way to law school. It wasn't until her senior year when she had a college internship at an LA modeling agency, and this is how her career takes off.
So while I was at this internship, interning at the modeling agency, I was almost done, and the adult side, I was working in the kids department, one of the agents from the adult side was like, would you ever consider modeling, or, you know, and I was like, you think so? You know, of course, I'm studying for the LSATs. I was, UCLA. I was a very serious student until someone said they might pick me, possibly, for being attractive. And for someone with painfully low self-esteem, the idea that I could make money from people thinking I'm attractive, I signed up.
And her first audition happened to be for Tupac in the California Love video.
And they said, come body conscious or in a bikini, and you're gonna have to dance for Tupac. What they didn't say was, and 25 of his closest friends. But the reality was I was willing to stand in line for the hope of exploiting myself. Hoping to be chosen. Hoping to be publicly chosen. And so when people say, why did you get into this industry? In the hopes of being publicly chosen.
And although her first experience was a little crazy, she was still offered a spot at that modeling agency. She also landed her first audition and job without any headshots on Saved by the Bell in 1989. And it didn't end there. She was able to get a lot of small roles and guest appearances on a lot of hit TV shows during that time. She claimed she got her big break when she was on the hit show Seventh Heaven.
Did you audition for that part?
On Seventh Heaven? I did, yeah. It was one of the first auditions I had ever had.
How did you prepare for that audition?
God, at the time I probably, worked with my one of my friends or my boyfriend and had them run lines with me. Broke out the highlighters, the usual stuff, the regular stuff.
However, the more she progressed in the industry, the more she started to feel as if she did not belong there. She had issues with self-worth.
We don't feel worthy. A lot of us really struggle with our sense of self-worth. So you could go through 50 comments, all good. You're amazing, you're wonderful, you're this, and you're like, I know somebody out there feels the way I truly feel about myself, which is you ain't shit. And you wait, you scroll, there it is. And the one comment out of, 500, that's the one you never forget, because inside, deep down, you haven't gotten to, that's how you really feel, and you found someone to validate that feeling that you have about yourself.
But do you feel that way? Do you feel
I
that
did.
sometimes?
I used to. I used to.
She also talked about losing gigs to other women because they felt that she wasn't as pretty or pretty enough.
And I remember I was auditioning and I was testing for a pilot on UPN. Google the network; it no longer exists. Coincidence? I think not. But it was between me and another girl. She's known, Bianca Lawson.
Bianca Lawson from Queen Sugar fame, who's lovely. And they said she ended up getting the job. And you know, my manager was like, you know, why? You know, is there anything that we can give her to work on for, you know, for the next gig? And they were like, no, Bianca's just prettier. Okay. But what do you, like, there's nothing I can do with it. I can't go to a class to get better at that.
And although we've seen her in a lot of films and we felt like, oh, Gabrielle Union is doing her thing, she started to speak out more and more about this skin color complex she's seen in the industry from her very young friends.
Fantastic. Well, let's start it off. So, in your opinion, do we still discriminate based on skin color in our race?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And that goes men as well as women. You know, I have some of my very good friends are have a little color complex, and will, you know, if a man is darker than them, it's like, you better have the cure for cancer in your back pocket because you're not going to take it seriously. And we'll go as far to look at their mama's hair grade, the grade of their mama's hair. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. They're looking at noses, hair, all of that when they think about actually having kids. Wow. Definitely. And men, certainly, when it comes time to wife somebody or procreate, they're definitely taking all of that into consideration. Wow. And there's so much self-hate going around. Like, men don't mind the idea, a dark-skinned man a lot of times doesn't mind the idea of a little, you know, brown boy that is in his likeness. But the idea of a little brown girl that is in their likeness, they want to see their daughter reflected in the woman that they choose, which is, you know, a lot of men, light skin, curly hair, light eyes. That is our ideal in our community, you know. It's so common. It's so sad. It is so sad.
Got to a point in her career where she started to fake her accent and develop this mean girl complex. Like, she was also in a relationship in which she felt was wrong for her. In 1999, she met NFL player Chris Howard at a party. The couple married in 2001 and they ended up separating in October 2005. She confessed that he allegedly cheated the day they got engaged, all the way up until their marriage.
The day he proposed, I had an audition up in Wilmington, North Carolina for Dawson's Creek. Didn't get it, but I came home a little earlier than expected, and I go to get on his computer, and this was like right when I guess like IMs or whatever just, you know, became a thing. And his boy messages him, yo, you still got that Greek girl coming this weekend. I'm a lot of things. Greek is not one of them. Should have been a red flag. We proceed to get married. I was doing laundry and he'd be good for leaving like credit cards or money in his pockets. So I'd have to go through his pockets just to make sure, you know, I didn't wash our annex. And I find this number in his pocket, and it's an 818 number because we were living in the San Fernando Valley. And the name, Angelina. It's like, it's happening again.
In 2009, she met basketball player Dwyane Wade at a party, and the couple started dating. Of course, that relationship was very public, and it faced many ups and downs, but they are still together till this day. In 2017, Gabrielle Union came out with a book, We're Going to Need More Wine, where she discussed more tragic events that happened in her life.
People always ask me what the difference between Nikki, which is the name that my family and friends call me, what she like versus what Gabrielle is like. I was Nikki when I was, so there's a part of Nikki that died that day. To me, it kind of marks that change, that massive change, the loss of my innocence in a sense, the loss of trust, the beginning of post-traumatic stress syndrome, and the rebirth. So Gabrielle is the phoenix that has sort of risen from the ashes. The man who raped me took a plea deal of 33 years. This summer was my 25th anniversary of my life, so he doesn't have that much more time. We go back and forth about thinking about if there are certain crimes that you cannot be rehabilitated from. I don't think is one of those.
Union wasn't always this strong. She gives a lot of thanks to her life coach, AJ Johnson, who helped her when she hit rock bottom. It took her some time to understand self-worth and to understand who she really was, knowing how beautiful she was inside and out. As a kid, she was allowing people to laugh and joke about little black girls. Now she's calling out the BS. And even in her own household, having those conversations at the table about colorism, about black women, black men, black injustice. Now Gabrielle Union carries a lot of titles in the public eye. However, I felt like her story needs to be told. You guys, let me know your thoughts and your opinions down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Talk to you guys later. Bye.